The most fun and best Mesmer build with Spear currently in Guild Wars 2 PvP is Mirage. Today we're gonna take a look at this build. I'm Summer, and without much further ado, let's jump right in. So let's start out with the gear. You play Spear and Sword Torch. You use the Berserker Amulet for maximum damage, and also use Rune of Infiltration, which gives you a lot of precision because you want to crit as much as you can. You could swap this for Link's Rune for some passive movement speed if you want to, but in general I would say you want to do more damage and you are quite mobile in any case, so I would recommend more damaging option here. For Relic, I would highly recommend to use Relic of Rivers. It's really strong. It gives you at the end of a dodge roll alacrity and regeneration, which is really good. You mainly take it for the alacrity because you get your skills more often, even so the offensive and the defensive one, it's really good. And you, as a Mirage, dodge really often because you have a lot of access to Vigor, and so you dodge quite often, and it's the core of your build. On both weapon sets, you use Energy and Cleansing Sigil for maximum defense. Energy is self-explanatory, you get a lot of endurance by using the sigil, and you want to dodge as Mirage, and you also want to dodge to proc the Relic of Rivers. Bondi Cleanse is also really good on weapon swap, that's why you take Cleansing. For weapons you use Spear and Sword Torch. You could swap the Torch for Shield if you really wanted to, but the stealth is really important for this build because you want to, if you are pressured or you want to disengage, you should use the Torch to get some stealth going. It also removes some conditions, so the Torch is really good, even though the Phantasm is not the best. You play a power Mirage build. That's why you take Illusions, Dueling and Mirage, of course. In Illusions you get some more Confusion stacks, which is not that important, but you will get some damage increase every time you create an illusion, which you create quite often, so you have a little bit more damage. Then your shatter skills can reduce recharge, which is really good, especially for, let's say, the F4 distortion, and of course for the offensive ones, and also for the more base application. And of course that's the best trait in this let's say trait line, Master Fragmentation, so your shatters are improved. For example, your distortion reflects, your diversion is now AoE. The cripple is not that important, but the crit chance on Mindwreck is really good because it's almost 100% crit with your inherent crit chance, so it will deal a lot of damage. This trait is just the best option you have here, but it's not really that crazy. It gives you a little bit of quickness and your Phantasm as well, so they cast their attacks quicker, which is quite noticeable on the 5 here, because it's a daze, AoE daze, and it's rather fast with this. And of course you take Shatterstorm, so your F1 gets one more ammunition stack, which is really strong because you can spam it and to increase your burst potential. Then you play Dueling. Dueling is a really strong trait line after they buffed it. So you get Vigor when you crit every 10 seconds for 3 seconds. So it's 30% uptime if you don't get corrupted, which is really strong. Then your Illusions inflict bleeding, nothing for your build. And then you get Fury every time, let's say every 8 seconds. And also Fury to your allies, that's not bad, but you almost have 100% uptime with this. If you not get corrupted, it's 100%, which is really good. So you get 20% more crit chance all the time almost. With your almost 60%, you're at 80% if you take this trait as well. You get 100% crit chance and over 100 with Mindwreck, which is really broken. So then, really good trait here, when you successfully evade an attack in Vigor. So you get 50% Vigor uptime with this, because of course you evade a lot of attacks, because that's what you should do as a squishy build. So if you don't get corrupted, it's 50% from this trait, 30% from this trait, so you have 80% Vigor uptime. Then this is, let's say, a really aggressive trait. if you take this, your F2, in my case, the Cry of Frustration, will get AoE blind in a 240 radius, which is really strong if you use it correctly, so you can blind some heavy hitting skills or some CC skills. But it's only melee, so you have to be aware. And you have to, let's say, use it at the right moment, because if you waste it, it's not that impactful. And if you don't feel like you get value out of that, you should swap to this, because you will get some more ferocity and recharge reduction on your sword skills. But if you can play with this, it's really strong if you get value from this. And then, of course, that's a really major trait in this trait line, Deceptive Evasion. Every time you dodge in combat, you will create a clone at your position, which uses the weapon you currently equip. So you have a lot of clone generation with this build, because you dodge a lot, and you get, every time you dodge, a clone. Then you have Mirage. Mirage alters your dodge function. You will not dodge like a normal person, but you will get some Mirage Cloak, which allows you to use ambush skills on your weapon. The ambush skills for this weapon we will get to later. But in general, they are really strong and you should use them wisely. So it's also not only a defensive capability, the dodge, but it's also an aggressive capability, because you can use your ambush skills with it. And Mirage Cloak allows you to cast skills while you have it. So it's really strong if you want to get some skill cast done and you dodge in the meantime, you get 100% to hit it almost. So then you use self-deception. Every time you use a deception skill, which is in our setup only Jaunt, you will create a clone if you have any other clones active. That's mainly because you want to set up your burst. So if you have one clone and use Jaunt, you will create another clone, which then you can combine a lot with your F1 or with your shatters, and you have a lot of more burst potential. Then overlooked trait, but it's really good. Nomad's Endurance. Every shatter gives you vigor. The condition damage is not important to us because we're power build, but every shatter gives me vigor, so it's not that long, but you shatter a lot in this build, so you get a lot of endurance regen from this. Combined with this trait and this trait, you get a lot, almost 100% vigor uptime if you don't get corrupted, and that's really impressive and really important to this build because you're extremely squishy. Your light armor class don't have any vitality in this build and any toughness, so you're just relying on your dodge or your distortion for that matter to mitigate damage, I mean. Then one really strong trait, but I have to explain it a bit. So illusions shattered by distortion become mirage mirrors, which is really good. Mirage mirrors are the equivalent of your dodge if you walk into them. So if you walk into a mirage mirror, you will get a dodge, and you will also get access to your ambush skills. But the trait also has a second, let's say, thing, and that's actually the strong one. Ambush skills become available for a short time whenever you grant distortion to yourself. So every time you use your F4, or let's say walk into Mirage Mirror, of course, you will get access to your ambush skill. And that's really good because, of course, you use a distortion if you are pressured, and you will get access to your ambush skill. So you can use it to disengage more easily, which is really strong. And Mirage Cloak increases your movement speed. That's just to, let's say, mitigate the loss of the, let's say, movement you would normally have when you dodge. So you get a little bit of more movement speed while you have your Mirage Cloak. And the last trait is Doom Cloak. They reworked it some time ago and now it's really strong. It will give you a Mirage Cloak if you have enough clones present. That means every time you shatter with at least 2 clones, you will give to yourself Mirage Cloak, which is the dodge. So if you shatter with 2 or more clones, you will get a dodge, which is good to mitigate damage, but you will also be able to get the ambush skill, which is really good. So you have a lot of access to dodging with this build, you know, not only the dodge you have with your energy, but also a lot of dodging via Mirage Cloak and therefore access to the ambush skills. For weapon skills, you have your melee out attack with the spear, then you have the AoE attack of the spear, which is like some damage, and if you hit them in the outer ring, it will guaranteed crit and will also increase some more damage. And every time you hit a foe with this, you get a clone and clarity. Clarity is a buff that improves your next spear skill that you use. So if you use clarity on this skill, you get just some might. You should try to use it on your other weapon skills. Then the imaginary inversion, that's your defensive skill on the spear set. So it gives you some damage if you hit it, but will also heal. And if you have it empowered by your clarity, it will have higher healing. And the most important aspect, it will evade attacks for 1 second and remove some conditions. So it's a really defensive skill every 15 seconds with also alacrity. And if you empower it, it's also a very potent heal. So it's a really good skill. You should use it really wisely. And then you have your Phantasm skill on Spear, which is just a dash if you don't have a target. And if you have a target, you will dash and will create 1 or 2, if it's empowered by the clarities, 1 or 2 Phantasm Lancers, which will throw a spear at your target, which deals quite a bit of damage and also removes wound, and they will cripple the target. If the Phantasm strikes a target that is already crippled, which could be by an ally or by the first hit of the Phantasm Lancer, and then the second hit will have the cripple applied already, so it will immobilize them. So if it's crippled, it will immobilize them, which is really strong because it's a range skill. And the Phantasm has 1200 range, so it will, let's say, remove quite a bit of wounds with this and also be able to immobilize them. So it's really strong if you use it correctly. And then you have your teleport skill on this weapon, which is a Mental Collapse. It will deal quite a bit of damage because it will pulse some AoE field that deals damage every time, and it's quite high of damage and increases in radius. It's also a blast finisher, just that you know. And if you have it empowered by your clarity of your 2 skill, it will also be a stun. So it's a really strong combo to use the 2, hit it, and then use your teleport with a stun. And the most important aspect of this skill is also it refreshes your 2 skill. You can use the 2, hit a target, get the clarity. Use the 5 to get a stun and teleport, and it will reset the 2s to get another damaging skill and get another clarity for your 3 or 4 in this case. So it's a really combo heavy weapon set, and it's really strong. On the other hand, you have Sword and Torch. The Sword auto attack is quite nice, but nothing special. It will remove a boon on the last hit, but you'll most likely not get there. And then you have evade on the 2, also some damage. It's nice to have, but it's mostly for the defense, but you can't move while doing this. And then you have your 3 skill, which will create a clone, and you can teleport to the target, which is important because you will swap positions with your clone if you created a clone, and will also immobilize the target, which is really important because it's your setup skill. If you use this and afterwards another skill, you can guarantee that it will land because the target is immobilized. Really strong. And then, like I said before, you have the Prestige, which will give you 3 seconds of stealth, removes 2 conditions, and also applies a blind around you. It's like your disengage skill. And you should be aware though that if you, after the 3 seconds, there will be a burst, which will apply burning, which makes it difficult to increase the stealth of 3 seconds, because if you hit an enemy with it, you will be revealed. So use that wisely. It's your disengage skill, it's the most important one after blink. And then you have Phantasmal Mage. It's not for the conditions, it deals a little bit of damage, yeah, that's good. But you want to use it for the days. It's an AoE days, and it's quite nice if the enemies have to also be aware of phantasm spawns. And with the quickness, it's actually quite fast. So now to the ambush skills. The spear ambush is just a little, let's say, flurry of attacks in front of you. But the most important one is actually the sword ambush. If you get Mirage Cloak with sword, you can use the jump here, which will not only be quite a nice engage or disengage tool, but it will also, and that's the important part, daze the target, which is quite, let's say, interruptive, and will also leave a clone behind at your original position. So if you, let's say, are in combat, you will get one clone from Mirage Thrust, and because you dodged, you will also get a clone. So if you dodge, you get 2 clones, and if you use the Ember skill after that, which is really nice for your burst combo. And it's a really good, let's say, mobility skill, of course. Also, out of combat, you can move quite fast with this. And that's also the reason why you don't have to run the Lynx rune for the movement speed, because you have so much ambush uptime, and you can jump around quite often. So now to your utility skills and healing skills. So you use Ether Feast after it's got buffed because it's really strong. It now heals you it's still quite a bit, and for every clone it will heal you even more. But in general it will remove 1 condition, and for every clone it will also remove 1 condition more, which is really strong. So you could in theory heal quite a lot and also remove 4 conditions on a 25-second cooldown, which is really good. Then of course, as every Mesmer build, especially as on squishy ones, you want to use Blink, 1200 range instant teleport, which will also break your stun, which is not only good for disengaging or setting up your combos, but also let's say if you combine it with stealth or stuff, you can quite easily get decaps and stuff in Conquest. Then you have your Signet of Illusions, a really strong signet. If you cast it and get the cast through, you reset all your shatter skills. This is one for the F1 only, so it will not grant all 2 stacks. But that's better than nothing, so you get 4 shatters again after that. This is mainly used, of course, for the F3 and F4, because those are the ones with the long cooldown, but of course F1 and F2 is also nice to recharge. This is a rather long cast time without quickness, and therefore it could be interrupted quite easily, but you are Mirage, so you can dodge while you cast, so that's a really strong aspect there. And for the last skill, you want to run another stun break. Signet of Midnight is a really good one because you get stealth and it's a stun break on a rather short cooldown. So I recommend this one. You can swap to another one like Send Through Glass, for example, or even a teleport, which is not a stun break, but will also act like a little stun break because you will teleport around so that enemies can't get you. But in general, I think this is the best one. If you're really greedy, you could also go mirror images for stun break and some more damage because you create 2 clones. But in general, I think the stealth on the stun break here is really good because if you get stunned, you want to disengage most likely, and therefore the stealth is good. For your elite skill, you of course want to run Sean. That's a really, really strong skill. It's the only deception that you have. That's why this trait is, let's say, good. If you don't have this one, you wouldn't take this. So, like I said, for your burst combo, you want to line this up with 1 clone and then use Sean, so you get another clone and you have more value on your shatters. But in general, Sean is a short-range teleport, which will also remove 1 condition and apply some confusion. That's not that important. So this is a really nice disengage tool for some small teleports, but also is most important for your burst combo because it creates a clone, instantly creates a clone, and gives you a little teleport, so you can reposition yourself to align and land the burst. That's it with the skills, and there are quite some cool combos like I explained with this build. Of course, you can use the 2 and then the 5 to get an empowered long-range stun because you will teleport in, and then use the 2 again. But of course, you also want to do some 2 and empower the 4 to get 2 lancers, will remove more boons and also deal much more damage. Really strong. And of course, if you really need it, you can empower the 3 to get more healing. It's important to say that this skill has a rather short cooldown, especially with alacrity, so you can easily spam it. For your sword, you of course want to use Illusionary Leap quite a lot, so that you can immobilize your target, and then maybe use the 5 or swap weapon to get your Mind the Gap, or let's say even get some damaging skills off here. But in general, the setup with your swap ability here is really, really strong. And you should use the prestige mostly for disengages or for some sneaky engages. But like I said, it's really important to disengage. So if you use it as an engage tool, it could be, let's say, not off cooldown when you want to disengage again. And your 2 skill does some damage, yes, but I would mostly use it for the defensive capabilities of 1 second evade. And in general, I would say your damage comes mostly from the spear weapon set. If you swap to the, let's say, sword weapon set, it's mostly because of the mobility, but you have quite a lot of damage there as well. It's not actually on the attacks mostly, it's mostly on the 1, because if you ambush, you will create 2 clones, like I said, when you dodge, and therefore you can get quite a lot of value for your shatter skills with this. So if you want to create clones, this weapon set is actually the better one. Okay, that's it for the combos. You have to be really aware of your position, because you're really squishy and you are melee build, you don't have any range potential, and therefore you're always in the enemy's face, which can result in quick death if you don't know what you're doing. And you also have to line up a lot of your defensive skills and dodges. Like I said, you have almost 100% vigor uptime, therefore you can dodge quite a lot, really good, which is also further increased because you have a lot of alacrity. But if you want to line up, let's say, all of your defensive skills, you want to dodge, you want to use the 3 and the distortion at maximum clones, which will give you a lot of invulnerability, but also will create the Mirage mirrors around you from the shattered clones, which you can walk into after it run out to get more dodges. And in the meantime, from the vigor, you will have another dodge. You can use the 2, and you can even use stealth like the prestige or the signet of midnight to disengage even more. And if you're really pressured, of course, you want to use your panic button, the blink and the jaunt to guarantee that you get out of, let's say, combat or out of the fight. And what is also really important is that you can also line up your burst with the blink, but in general, the blink is a really, really strong tool to disengage, and is your, let's say, one of the only 2 stun breaks you have, and therefore if you use it as an offensive tool, you should be really aware that you are really, let's say, in danger if you get focused on after that. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please don't forget to leave a like. If you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.